Hi, today I'm going to talk with you about the final years of Scott Joplin, from the end of 1914 until his death in 1917. In 1914, Joplin published by himself in New York City perhaps one of his greatest rags ever, Magnetic Rag, when he was 46 years old. He may have been already in a serious declining health, but his talent as a composer were not affected. Later in 14, he composed a last rag, the Silver Swan rag, issued by the QRS Piano Roll Company in July, but this number did not reach printed until 57 years later in 1971. At the end of 1914, Joplin placed a note saying that he moved to Harlem and will be teaching to new students for the piano and the violin, giving us the indication that he was still able to use his musical knowledge at this time. Years after its original publication, Joplin arranged for orchestra a piece from his opera Tremonisha, The Frolic of the Bears, renamed for the occasion Dance of the Bears, played in an annual concert for students on May 5, 1915. In September of this same year, Scott Joplin announced two new compositions, Morning Glories, who remain unpublished unfortunately, and Syncopated Jamboree, a complete vaudeville act that has never been performed and no manuscript has been found so far. Later in 1915, the ragtime pianist Hubby Blake had a meeting with Joplin in Washington, D.C., where other ragtime pianists were present. Joplin was asked to play a little bit, refused first, arguing that he was too sick, but finally agreed to play a little bit of the Maple Leaf Rag. Blake gave his sad description about this event. He sounded like a child trying to pick out of a tune. I hated to see him trying so hard. He was so weak. He was dead, but he was breathing. I went to see him after, but he could hardly speak, he was so ill. By this time, Joplin was still a student to teach for, however, Martin Niederhofer, which remember that Joplin wrote a tune for him, Pretty Pansy Rag, but unfortunately he lost his copy and we don't have any other trace of his rag. During the spring of 1916, Joplin made 7 hand-played piano rolls. Since they are cut from actual performances, we can think that these rolls are direct evidences of Joplin's real playing, but we need to keep in mind that the final results were corrected and edited, and we don't know the actual tempo Joplin used. Interesting fact is that Joplin edited a tune not composed by him, but by William Christopher Handy, the Old Miss Rag. In September 1916, Joplin announced he completed a musical comedy, If, and was working presently on his Symphony No. 1, but these two works remain of course unpublished. We do know that Joplin was suffering at this time of dementia paralytic, a manifestation of tertiary syphilis, giving a general mental and physical deterioration, ending in total paralysis and finally to death. He knew that he had syphilis, but did not know for sure that he will suffer this insidious effect I just described to you. Poor Scott Joplin died of a horrible death, and the worst of all, he attracted very little attention about it. Only 2 newspapers mention it, one mentioning his inability to have his opera Tremonisha produced. After knowing about the death of Joplin, John Stark, who published his first rags, published posthumously his Reflection rag, maybe composed actually 10 years earlier. He wrote this brief sentence about Joplin's death. Scott Joplin is dead, a homeless itinerant. He left his mark on American music. I think we can both and all agree with this. Thank you for watching.